Mm. Bomb ba ba bomb ba bomb ba bomb bomb take a dang da dang da dang da dang dang take a digga dang dang blue moon. What's up, y'all? Storytelling hours. I'm so glad you can be with me wherever in time and space you are. Well, I guess if you're here live, we're sharing time. 11 a.m. Pacific every Wednesday, miércoles, Mercury's Day. A tiny bit late today because I got carried away in a reading. Now I'm hearing our baby's frustration outside the door, and I'm called to go, but also having faith in an amazing, powerful, and nurturing mama is on the case, and I'll have my turn later. It's an interesting thing to have recently become a dad. And actually, given that, I would love to extend my gratitude, as I did in my weekly email this morning, which I would like to send out on Sunday, but things are changing here right now, and I'm getting used to it. But in that email, I shared gratitude with those of you who are supporting the work, and it's very much appreciated. Whether you choose to use the magical GeminiBrett.com/donate link or /sessions link to book a reading with me, or to join the constellations community to support the work and also receive so much in exchange. I'm just like very grateful and super appreciative. By the way, while I'm there, a couple things I'd love to say. First of all, go watch the sunset and wait. Give it like 33 minutes. Let's honor the great Hermes Trismegistus, having the three parts of the philosophy of the whole world. It might be more like 44 or even 45 minutes for you. But Mercury is now quite visible as an evening star. I saw Mercury with my naked eye for the first time on Saturday. And every day he's just getting further and further from the sun. He'll reach maximum elongation on July 21st. That does not mean that's equal to the day when Mercury will be most visible as an evening star, but it's a great time for you to go out there and to catch the trickster, to go out there and connect and ask for a message. Yeah, so Mercury just moved into Leo. He's reflecting Cancer Sun, and the general vibe I feel is remember with gratitude where you came from, good times and bads, nutrient soil and the poison stuff too, right? Because that grew you, and only you can do you. And so it's time for us to roar. Now, if you're out with Mercury as an evening star, especially if you make this a daily practice, wherever you have to go to see the sunset in the west and wait till it gets a bit dark enough to see Mercury say hello, you'll be like the first one, to see Venus's rebirth. The astronomical schedule for that might be July 10th, 1 week from today, when Venus reaches a 10-degree separation from the sun. That's a rule that many use. Venus and sun 10 degrees apart for the rebirth of Venus when retrograde as a morning star, or when direct as she is now as an evening star. It really depends on the sign, on the cycle, where on earth you are looking from. And I'm looking every day right now, and I just can't wait to see that beautiful reflection of sunlight that only Venus can offer once again. It feels like she has been gone forever. All right. I am this weekend, this Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific time, teaching a class on Venus cycles, Venus phase, from the shamanic astrology tradition, Venus chakra, moon gates. And as it is in constellations, the School of Astrology's membership space, I offer a couple hours of Earth astrology. And then after a short break, we do some deep dive live chart work with folks in the community and have deep community discussion, as we often do. So if that class interests you and you are not yet a member of Constellations, this would be a great time to join. We're still offering entrance at the maiden voyage price of only $16 a month, and you can quit anytime. So you could do this Venus class for $16, and while you're there for a month, see, like, we probably have, I don't know, 30 hours of classes that have already been recorded. From me teaching Earth astrology, from Amala Hall teaching astroherbalism, from Alyssa Luna leading these amazing astro embodiment practices each month through the signs, from Phelan Shiva, who's been leading a really wonderful Astro Tarot group there. We're going to be introducing new things. We have community discussions scheduled several times a week where you can just connect with birds of a feather and folks of like mind, and especially like heart, for the art of the chart starts in the heart. And we would love to have you in. Please come give it a try. So GeminiBrett.com/constellations will get you there, and you'll get to see amazing folks like Emmy, who beams to us regularly from Germany. And happy birthday, Emmy. What a treat to have an opportunity to celebrate some of that special day with you. May this return and this revolution about the sun be most revolutionary indeed, so you can even return to more of your amazing magic. I really appreciate so many of y'all, like Diane, who have been spending time in the constellation space and sharing heart and mind. Okay, last week on the StarryTelling Hours, we got into Blue Moon. And it got a little bit more technical astronomically, and especially through the calendar kung fu, than I intend to today. But I do need to just retrograde back and sum up a couple of the key points, as today together we explore, what does a blue moon do? And by the way, this topic for StarryTelling Hour was completely inspired by one of our constellations members who, in one of the community discussions, I came in late and she's like, hey, what's up with the moon shifting from the quincunx sign to the opposite sign? Like, what happens? And I went into this spontaneous thing and shared a bunch of slides and stuff, some stuff that you'll see today, and did some chart work. And I'm excited to play that game with you right now. Okay, but a little bit of review first. So you will hear people often say that there are 13 moons in a year. And there's not. Okay, especially if you're talking about moon phases, as most folks do when they talk about Moonths, right? Like, so new moon to new moon. So this Friday, on Venus's day, we will have a new moon in the sign of Cancer, the tropical sign of Cancer, the tropical zodiac, directionally aligned, like so many sacred systems of ancient wisdom traditions. The moon and sun will meet very close to the degree that the great Bohemian star, the goddess star Sirius, projects to in the tropical zodiac these days. So there is that power, right? So anyway, July 5th, new moon. And then we'll have the following new moon in the tropical sign of Leo on August 4th. And the timing between one new moon and the next, so the timing of the lunation, or what we call the synodic cycle of the moon. Synod means meeting. Okay, so the synodic month is the meeting, the time between one meeting of moon and sun and earth sky to the next. And it's about 29 and a half days between. You could do this from full moon to full moon as well. You could do this as the ancients did, and some still maintain the old practice of the true new moon, meaning the visible new moon, Diana's bow, the sliver crescent in the sunset west, right? Because a new moon, moon-sun conjunction is a no moon, unless it's a solar eclipse and you happen to be on Earth, where you can experience some shadow play and actually see the moon's body. When moon conjoins sun every month, there's no moon to be seen. Moon is under the beams. Depending on where on Earth you're looking from, typically above or below the sun, right? If you go to the other hemisphere, the opposite thing would be true. But regardless, new moon is like no moon. Yeah, it's a day or two after where the moon is first seen in the sunset west, that she has survived her trial by fire. And interestingly, because many of the old solely lunar or moon phase calendars began their month with that young sliver crescent moon, Diana's bow, which we find in the sunset west, they began their days at sunset. right? Which kind of seems backwards, but that's why that's in the tradition. I actually feel like some traditions have, well, New Year in autumn time because that's like the sunset of the year. I also feel that some traditions have script that goes from the right to the left because in the northern hemisphere sky, you will find that when the moon is born, the young crescent in sun moon, the next day as she's waxing and her smile grows, and the day after, she moves from one sunset to the next, right to left through the local sky. That's a northern hemisphere truth, the right to left for all of us from the west to the east. Okay. So the issue is if you're looking at the lunation, at the phases of the moon and timing your months there, the cycle is 29 and a half days long. Okay. And the way that most of the old calendars would honor that shape is to alternate between months of 30 days and 29 days. And thereby you're keeping the 29 and a half day pace. What 12 of those months is 354 days. Okay, so there's more than 12 months in a year. There's definitely not 13. There's like 12.37. It's about 12 and a third. And so the way that you calibrate your silver years of 12 months with the golden year of the seasons is about every 3 years you add a leap month. But it's about every 3 years. It's a little bit more. The way it works, and we call the synchronization these days the metonic cycle, is that 19 solar years are almost exactly equivalent to 235 lunations. It's a wild synchronization. It's like impossible syncopation. And so what happens is during the course of these 19 years, you will have 7 leap months. You will have 12 years with 12 moons, and you will have 7 years with 13 moons. So when people tell you there's 13 moons in a year and all the indigenous people knew about this and the 12 is the patriarchal masculine trying to destroy, like, no. And in fact, I find that's pretty offensive to the ancient astronomers who were certainly experienced, not only wise enough, but experienced. Well, look, wisdom comes from experience, who had the expertise, which is born of experience, who were experienced enough to understand that there were 12 moons plus a little bit, plus about a third each, quote unquote calendar year. I shouldn't say that because that means solar calendar year, but each solar year. And this becomes an important part of not only what is a blue moon, but what does it do? Now, the last thing I'll say in review is that the definition that we currently use for blue moon, I find to be a whack result of astronomy turning its back on astrology. I don't know when it went down, when the shift was. I'm not even sure that I am right. But the current definition of a blue moon is the third full moon in a season that has 4. Okay, well, let's unpack that a little bit. So because in most solar years, we have 12 full moons, there's 13 about every third year, or there would be 7 extra full moons over the course of 19 years. Okay, I can do that with new moons. I can do that with full moons. I could do that with the disseminating moon, like any moon phase. There's 235 during the course of 19 years. Now, I love that the astronomers are doing this by season because they wouldn't honor it this way. And I should say the rationalist science, lab coat astronomers of our day and age, they wouldn't call it the cardinal cusps. But you and I, who utilize a more efficient solar calendar than the one of 365.242199 days, which is called the 360-degree calendar of the Tropical Zodiac, know that the seasons begin at the cardinal sign cusps when the sun reaches the cardinal signs, which, by the way, are the cardinal directions of Earth. Like so many sacred systems of ancient wisdom traditions, the signs of the tropical zodiac are directionally defined. I would suggest they're actually energetically directionally described. Earth's North Pole leans in every moment towards zero tropical Cancer, which is why zero tropical Cancer is above the Tropic of Cancer. And that is the northernmost point above Earth's equator, just as zero Capricorn is the south point. So Cancer north, Capricorn south, and by the way, Aries east and Libra west. This is Earth astrology, and it's the Earth astrology that modern rationalist astronomers are either attempting to forget or consciously ignoring so they can stay armed in their lame attack of astrology. And in this attack, though they are saying this modern definition of blue moon is the third full moon in a season which has 4, they are doing this not by January 1st or whatever arbitrary day in a calendar, but they're doing this from solstice to an equinox season, from equinox to solstice season, from that solstice to the next equinox season, equinox, solstice, solstice. In other words, the sun moving from the mutable to cardinal sign, right? The cardinal cusps. Aries, which is the east point of Earth, it is due east of the center of Earth, where we are all one, where we are all connect, that place where we measure astrology from. Cancer is north of Earth, literally Earth's northern pole, leans towards zero Cancer in all moments forever. That's the truth and the real astronomy of the tropical zodiac. Libra is the west point, hence the glyph that looks like the setting sun. Capricorn is the south point. So if you, like I, utilize the 360-degree solar calendar, then we can say that typically, as the sun moves from one cardinal cusp to the next, from zero Aries to zero Cancer, from zero Cancer to zero Libra, from zero Libra to zero Capricorn, from zero Capricorn to zero Aries. In other words, through the seasons, there are typically 3 full moons in a season, because there are typically 12 full moons in a solar year. However, there are actually 12.37, almost 12 and a third. And so about every third year, you have a year that features not 12, but 13 full moons. And those would be the years where you have a blue moon, right? Ding ding dang 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 blue moon, right? Which would be the extra moon of the year. So wouldn't it just make sense for it to be the 13th moon of the year? Well, when does the year begin? That's a really wonderful question, by the way. And not all choose this weird January 1st thing. I think choosing a solstice, choosing an equinox might make more sense. In the solar terms, and like the Chinese tradition, they use the date that we 360-degree calendar folks would call the sun at 15 tropical Aquarius. Which interestingly is right between sun at zero Capricorn and sun at zero Aries, the cross-quarter point of that season, which in the northern hemisphere is expressed as winter and southern hemisphere as summer. Yes, I think it makes a lot of sense to at least choose not some January 1st at midnight. Midnight in New York is 3 hours before it is in California, which is why I watch the ball drop there and go to sleep. You know, what is clock time? Why not choose a global Earth astronomical moment, which a solstice or an equinox is? So many choose the sun at zero Aries, and a good reason why is because that point, because it is due east of the center of Earth, where we are all one, that's like a global ascendant. And there's something about east that really certainly aligns with new beginnings. If you don't believe me, go watch a sunrise. But we're here to talk about moons, and the color blue, which is, I don't understand where that bit comes from. And I would love to learn that someday. If anybody knows, please put that in the chat. Why is a blue moon called blue anyway? And some, by the way, utilize another term called black moon for a similar system where we would look at 2 new moons in a season that has 4. If you use this like modern astronomer idea of what a blue moon is and apply it to new moons rather than full. But I'll suggest that, again, this practice of calling the 3rd full moon in a month, which has 4, the blue moon, is a whack result of astronomy turning its back on astrology. And a much better definition for blue moon would simply be the 2nd full moon, let's say the 2nd consecutive full moon in the same zodiac sign. Okay. So again, with the modern definition, that would tell you you're going to have a blue moon in August of 2024. If you're into that whole Gregorian trip. And let's see, Diane did some research for us. Thank you, ma'am. From the Encyclopedia Britannica, the term blue moon originated from the 16th century expression, the moon is blue, meaning something that was impossible. Intriguing. Thank you. But the moon does look blue sometimes. Not nearly as often as it looks red or orange, right? Some of that might be camera settings, which they did not have back in that century too. So if we work with this criterion, so again, like typically we'll have 12 full moons in a year. About every 3rd year, you have 13 full moons. Really, there would be 7 full moons extra during the course of 19 years. So if you were doing this like by full moons, you would, in the course of a 19-year cycle, where the rhythms of gold, sun, and moon, silver synchronize, you would have 12 years with 12 full moons and 7 years with 13. And in those years where there are 13 full moons, one of those 13 would be considered blue. Now, you're not going to have it be the 13th of the year because that's like, the last one of the year. And that thing needs to have a particular name. And there's many different systems that name the different 12 full moons of the year, folk systems, Maybe for that same reason, you don't want to give up the name of the last full moon of the spring or the summer or the fall or the winter time. And so instead of, even when you have a season with 4 full moons, like we currently will between northern hemisphere summer solstice, let's just say, to speak globally, northstice, which is the sun at 0 Cancer, to west equinox, which is the sun at 0 Libra, like we will have 4 full moons in that period of time in this calendar year of 2024, if you're into that whole Gregorian trip. And instead of calling that 4th full moon in the season, where seasons typically have 3, the blue moon, they call the 3rd of the 4 the blue moon, and that will happen in August, if you're into that whole Gregorian trip. However, again, I feel that modern definition, the 3rd full moon in a season which has 4, is a whack result of astronomy having turned its back on astrology, and that the criterion that you and I should utilize is the 2nd consecutive full moon in the same sign. And for those of you who, like I, prefer the tropical zodiac, that is happening in July, this month, if you're into that whole Gregorian trip, or next month, if you're into aligning months to the phases of the moon. Because last month, we had Gemini new moon followed by Capricorn full moon. And now we will have a Cancer new moon on Friday. Will be Saturday for some of you who live on the other side of some weird date line. Okay. So we have a full moon, sorry, a new moon at 14.5 degrees Cancer coming up. And soon we'll look at some charts. And that will be followed on July 21st. Not 21st, but 21st, by a Capricorn full moon in the very last degree of Capricorn, 29 degrees and 8 arc minutes. July 21st, Sunday. That might be true for all of us because it's 3 a.m. Pacific time. That it's on Sunday, the day of the sun. All right. Emmy on her birthday also heads to Britain and says, Britannica goes on saying, for 2 years following the eruption of the Krakatoa volcano in Indonesia in 1883, people around the world reported seeing strangely colored sunsets. Yeah, right now. And that moons appeared blue. Trippy. Like, why would that be? I mean, so unfortunately here we're having these like fire seasons every year. It hasn't been bad yet where I currently reside in the Bay, and just deep open heart blessings of love and wishes for safety for anyone who is experiencing such a traumatic tragedy now or in any time. But this year and last year so far haven't been so bad in regards to fire season where I reside in the Bay. The years preceding had, before, I don't know, someone started a big kind of brush cleanup incentive that was ridiculed. Anyway, but when we have smoke on the horizon, probably you've all seen it now, like you get that really red, like that bright red sun, right? So, and I've seen moon get reddened in that stuff as well. But maybe when you're attuned to like really red luminaries, that when they're out of that stuff, they would seem more blue because you got red shifted. I don't know. Anyway, it's so wonderful to have such resourceful star seekers on the team. But so many places to go. So I think what we should do is go to charts very soon. And, you know, I would invite, for those of you who are watching on Instagram, just because the charts will show up as like tiny little things, that you shift over to the YouTube stream. So GeminiBrett.com/YouTube would get you right there, or GeminiBrett.com/links. If you don't want to type as much, or you can access the link in my bio on Instagram that will take you there and to many other places as well. If you're on my mailing list, and I hope you will be, so you can sign up at GeminiBrett.com. You would have received the direct link this morning. I intend to send them out earlier in the week, but we have a 17-day-old baby and things are a little different. It hits a little different than it did a month ago. And maybe that's because that month was a Gemini new moon, Capricorn full moon, and the month to come was a Cancer new moon, Capricorn full moon. Now, even before we get to charts, so for the last time, I am reclaiming what I feel would have been the ancient way, and from what I understand, it's still utilized by astrologers in India, that the true definition of blue moon is not the third full moon in the seasons, which have 4, but rather the second consecutive full moon in the same zodiac sign. As long as we're there, let's also suggest that maybe we could utilize the black moon term to describe the second consecutive new moon in the same zodiac sign. We're going to look through space and time together and do some chart play, see how often this is. We're going to see some strange patterns, and I will then describe the astronomical reasons why it's weird, and therefore hopefully it no longer would be. Danielle asks, what would you recommend me reading to learn more about this? I'd say put on the transcript for this video. I don't know. Yeah, frankly, I don't know. There is a text that I would recommend, which is one of the wonderful wooden book series. You know, those little books which are so gigantic. And it is by Jeff Stray, Geoffstray, Jeff Stray, and it's called The Mayan and Other Ancient Calendars. That being said, well, he does speak about the general framework of solely lunar calendars, moon phase calendars. I don't think he mentions blue moons in that text at all. There is another wonderful one of the wooden book series, which might, and regardless of whether it does or does not, it's essential for your library. It's so good. It's by Robin Heath, and it's called Sun, Moon, and Earth. Robin Heath has a much bigger book called Sun, Moon, and Stonehenge, which is on the shelf. It's a kind of heavy technical thing. Sun, Moon, and Earth, one of these tiny wooden books that's also so huge. They're like read a paragraph and then go walk in the woods until you until you get it. You know, those are both really cool texts. So while I don't know if they would specifically address this question that we're looking into together today, they are great little books to have on your shelf. Well, this is fun. Danny says, thank you so much. I will be looking at your material. I happened to cross this live by accident. There are no accidents, Danny. There are only coincidences, and it's really nice to share incident with you, to share time with you. Okay, friends, to the charts. And let's look to this thing. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is be a Brett inside a Brett inside a Brett inside. Okay, enough of that. Let's go to today. And you know what? For this exploration, we will require displaying only the moon and the sun. Frankly, I like to show these things also with the lunar nodes, so we can also kind of honor the eclipse seasons as we go along, but that won't be necessary for our journey today. We will probably, however, bring Black Moon Lilith into the mix at some point along the way. I'm turning this to a 0 Aries wheel, which, you know, the traditional astrologer is inclined to reject, but there's a very astronomical truth to this wheel that is often employed these days to describe, maybe more like global expression, global time, which again, as I said before, 0 Cancer is the northern axis of Earth, 0 Capricorn is the southern axis of Earth, Tropic of Cancer, Tropic of Capricorn. And though East and the rising sign in New York is different than it is here in the Bay Area of California in this moment, there is, because there's a global north and a global south, there is a global east and a global west too. And those are the cardinal cusps. They are called cardinal because they are aligned to the cardinal directions. And it feels to me like nobody knows this. I certainly wasn't taught that. I had to stumble along into it by accident. All right, let's go back in time a little bit and we'll observe this new moon in Gemini. June 6th, 2024. And I celebrated this as my daughter Maya, who might have just starred in audio style in the background. She's now 17 days old. I celebrated that Gemini new moon as her prenatal syzygy, or prenatal lunation. Syzygy means an alignment of any 3 things, but astronomically, it's typically reserved to describe the alignments of sun, moon, and earth. Astronomers these days usually only use that great word syzygy when speaking about eclipses, whether solar or lunar. But this term has been long used to describe either the new moon before your birth, if you were born with the moon waxing, or the full moon before your birth, if you were born with the moon waning. So I was born with the waning moon. I would rewind to full moon before my birth. My daughter Maya was born on Father's Day with a waxing moon. So we rewind to the new moon before her birth. And here's one of the many instances in traditional astrology where you would see the actual conjunction, the synod of moon and sun utilized, right? Not like a visible new moon, which predates that time, like back into kind of like the Babylonian Chaldean calendar times. It's also utilized in other solely lunar calendar traditions like that, that was utilized in China, for example. Okay. So we love community. We want to put this up in the screen. So there's this kind of whisper about prenatal syzygy that it's at that time when the soul integrates with the body inside mama's womb. Who could say whether or not that is true? Still, on this day of Gemini new moon, I chose to sit and pray, knowing that my daughter's due date, at least, would be between this new moon and the full moon that would follow. I did a similar thing at her prenatal eclipse, which was that eclipse in April in the sign of Aries, too. So first, let's start here, kind of present time. We are in this lunation for another couple of days, right? And it was a Gemini new moon, okay? But see the degree, right? So because the lunation is like 29 and a half days long, half of that is about 15 days. The sun moves on average 1 degree per day. And so it's cheap, but it works, or it will at least get you close. If you take the new moon degree and add 15, then you will find that the place where the sun will be when moon opposes the sun on the opposite side of Earth to make full moon, to fully reflect sunlight back to those of us who have chosen to incarnate like this owl here. Okay, so here we have a new moon at 16 and a quarter Gemini, 16 and a third Gemini, something like that. What happens if I add 15? I get to 31 Gemini. In other words, the first degree of Cancer, right? So let's just push the button. So new moon, 16, 17 Gemini. Gemini, shouldn't that say 16, 16? Come on, people. So 16 and a third Gemini. And then we get the full moon here at the first degree of Capricorn. Okay, now that is the first hint that we might, if we really try, have a second full moon, a second consecutive full moon in the same sign. When we have one full moon in a very early degree, there is a chance the next full moon will be in a very late degree of the same sign. And indeed, that is happening real time for those of you witnessing this live, or coming soon to a theater called you, because on Friday, at least in Pacific time zones where I reside, we will have this Cancer new moon at the Sirius degree. And that will be followed, just add 15 to this, right? And we get from 14 to 29 by a second consecutive full moon in the Capricorn sign, where the first was at 1 degree and change Capricorn. Now we're at 29, right? And so if we're using this definition of blue moon equals the second consecutive full moon in the same sign, this is it, July 21st. It happens to be, by the way, I just found this today. Oops, wrong button. The same day that Mercury is at maximum elongation, which means Mercury's speed is equal to that of the sun. So before Mercury stations retrograde, he will elongate. This is right around the time, too, when Venus will be available to all eyes who go to have a look. Venus should appear sooner, as I was mentioning before. Okay, but back to the topic at hand. Blue moon, is this it? This is the one I will celebrate as a blue moon. Okay, how to do that? Like, what should I do? Should I paint a blue moon? Yeah, of course. Why not? Lady Spellbreaker asks, is this tropical astrology? Absolutely, yes. Seems like maybe you just came to the party. I choose to play with the directional zodiac. That's the tropical zodiac. Many astronomers today will tell you that there is no astronomical reality to the tropical signs since they do not align to constellations they were traditionally associated with. Many even try to insert Ophiuchus as some 13th sign. And I wonder, given Spellbreaker 1313, if you're in that camp. I don't know. But importantly, the tropical zodiac is all about Gaia's spine, the sword of our stone, the world tree, Earth's rotational axis, the axis of our daily motion. The North Pole points and leans in every moment forever towards 0 degrees tropical Cancer, which is the most northern point of the sun's path, the ecliptic, the heart of the zodiac, from the equator, just as 0 Capricorn is the most southern point. So there's global north, global south, and therefore global east and global west. Those are the cusps of the tropical cardinal signs, the seasonal points. I love Ophiuchus too, but definitely not as a zodiacal constellation. And for those of us who also study in our sister sciences, we understand that creation creates in 12s. Danny asks, what is that instrument called? This is called an armillary sphere. And you'll see it show up a lot in the kind of the ancient woodcuts with the astronomers of old, who were astrologers too, you know. By the way, they are almost always wrong. This one's like this beautiful big gold thing, right? It was the closest one I've got. I have tons of these armillary spheres, and most of them are like, I can't even show them to you, because they'll have like Aries up here at the Tropic of Cancer. But you're like, no, tropical Cancer is at the Tropic of Cancer. That's how it works. And so for this one, I had to take it apart and turn the band around. That's why all the signs are upside down. So I can have the Tropic of Capricorn aligned with Capricorn and vice versa. Some of them, they're just like beyond repair. It's a sad thing. But again, this is what happens when astronomy turns its back on astrology. And we forget about like the truth of 12ness, for example. So let's not go to the crystal core of Earth right now. Let's go somewhere else. But speaking of instruments, you know, there's this wonderful statement by some of the Chinese wisdom teachers, which is that, how does this go? The 12 tones of the pitch pipes are so closely aligned to the calendar that you can't fit a piece of paper between the two. And I'm obviously paraphrasing, but I love that because so 12ness also expresses itself through the harmonic series. 12ness does not quite express itself through 12 moons in a year, right? It's actually in our sister sciences of number and space, that is sacred geometry, of number and time, that is musical harmony. It's much easier to see, this is the most pure of them, or hear that, as I like to say, creation creates in 12s. We have some decent science, I think, actually helping us know why the tropical zodiac has 12 signs, and I believe it's a hexagonal crystal core of Earth, and I think this is true for all planets. That's my religion. It's something I can't prove, but I think if you go look at the hexagon at Saturn's North Pole and the hexagonal storm at Jupiter's South Pole, you'll see some surface expressions of something that all planets have within. And I would suggest this is true for stars too. And there's been some interesting computer simulations based upon, you know, our limited seismic research of the inner Earth, which actually support this idea that there is a hexagonal crystal at the core of Earth, not some iron ball, and that it is directionally aligned. There you go, guys, fine. And so my feel is that this hexagon, where of course we have 6 faces and 6 points, are the 12 signs. And so as the moon goes around the Earth, it's just moving right through the 12 notes of the scale. And as the Earth goes about the sun, it moves the sun through the 12 too. For those of you on my newsletter, maybe I can bring up an image for you. Let me do that. You will have received this morning, and I send this out now every week, or at least attempt to. Where do we find it? Buttons, 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 constellations, the weekly planet, screenshots, thumbs. Okay, let me go here. And actually, let's go to the solstice edition. Yeah, okay. So, oh, you know what? Let me open a bunch of these. So, this might be off topic of like the blue moon topic, but it's also not. Because if we want to understand why a 13th moon in a year, or as they do today, a third moon in a season which has 4, or as what I'm saying we should do instead, which is the second consecutive full moon in the 12 sign directional zodiac, which comes about every 3 years for the criterion for blue moon, then we need to understand 12ness and why there is 12. So let me put this on the screen. Where did y'all go? Hey, where are y'all? Okay, here you are. Let's share the screen again. And again, if you're at Instagram, come on over to the YouTube page. So geminibrett.com/YouTube will get you to the stream where you can see this full screen. Speaking of full screen, can't we do that? Yes. Okay. So yeah, I created these for every week of this year, starting in late May, which is the first week that I sent out this weekly planet newsletter. And you're seeing two things. So one, this is a geocentric astrology chart. Okay. What does geocentric mean? It means the Earth is at the center. So when you see things, for example, like what is a decent example for us here? How about a Moon Mercury square? Okay, that's something that's happening. Here's Moon and Mercury. That's happening from Earth's point of view. Not the best example, actually, with Moon and Sun. Let's see if we can play in another way. So how about the Mercury-Saturn sextile? Okay, so look from Earth, which is the center of a geocentric chart. And here's Mercury this way. And you'll see him in green. That's elementally color-coded for Taurus, okay? And then Saturn here in Pisces. So that's their hexagon, as we used to call it, their sextile, right? See how that geometry is true from Earth? Okay. It's not true from the sun, right? So from the sun's point of view, Mercury is this way, and so is Saturn. They're not exact, but they're relatively conjunct. Like from the sun's point of view, and if we cast a heliocentric chart for this moment, we would see a near proximity, like kind of a triple conjunction of Mercury, Mars, and Saturn. So really importantly, the zodiac, especially like a geocentric chart, it's centered in the center of Earth, not even the surface of Earth, okay, the center of Earth, not from the sun. As Earth orbits the sun, and let's just go week by week, what we're going to see is Earth brings the sun through the sign. So here we have the sun in early degrees of Gemini. Now, really importantly, what I did is I utilized solar system scope to create these heliocentric images of our solar system. I went to this time, June 20th, 2024 at 13:51 Pacific time. How redundant to say 13:51 p.m. I don't think that's even a thing. Anyway, and then I positioned the astronomy software so that the Earth was directly above the sun, like from this orientation on your screen, because that would arrange, of course, solstice, and this was the time of solstice, sun ingressing, not sidereal Cancer, not Crab constellation, but when the north pole of Earth is leaning towards the light. So the sun is moving to the north point of the directional zodiac, which is 0 Cancer, right? So I calibrated this whole thing there. And then I drew in this kind of rainbow 12ness. Creation creates in 12s. And you chose yellow for air signs like Gemini. May our air never be yellow. And blue for water signs like Cancer. And so you can see here the center of the sun just coming to that cusp, right? That's the sun ingressing Cancer. In that way, I could rewind time and I could go forward in time and just watch what happens. You see, so as Earth is orbiting the sun, our zodiac, our directional zodiac moves with us. Now, this is the last one I did of the year. And now the sun is, quote unquote, at least as far as we're looking on the screen, above the Earth. The north pole of Earth is going this way down. That's the cusp of Gemini and Cancer in the directional zodiac, the tropical zodiac. In the south point, the south pole of Earth in the Tropic of Capricorn is here at the Sagittarius, red for fire signs, and Capricorn, green for earth signs cusp, right? So you can see the sun entering tropical Capricorn and beginning a new season, right? So let me just go all the way back. Let's go from one solstice to the next 6 months later. Here's equinox time. Right, so sun west of Earth, like that. And let me just stop here randomly. See how both Mercury and Venus, like if we look from sun, they're conjunct. If we look from Earth, they're in the same sign. That's the Leo slice. Sorry, the Sagittarius slice. Right, I just said that, Sagittarius Capricorn. And so you'll just see like the directional zodiac, these 12, they travel. Oh, I forgot to fill in these. they travel with the Earth. It's the Earth's rotational axis. It's our pole. It's our world tree. It's the spine of Gaia. Like that is the astronomy of the tropical zodiac. It has nothing to do with the stars out there. It's all about the relationship Earth and the star of ours that we call sun. And that doesn't mean that the so-called fixed stars or even constellations like Ophiuchus are not participating with us energetically. Those of you who have had several sessions with me know that we, after some time, go beyond planets and houses and signs and aspects and start bringing in more and more stars. So absolutely, this is tropical zodiac, and that's what's going to happen around here. But I also love to play with constellations too. Not necessarily today. What I'm going to be doing is tracking new moon and full moon through the signs, the 12 signs of the tropical zodiac, the zodiac that is like so many sacred systems of ancient wisdom traditions directionally aligned, the directions which are literally defined by Gaia's spine, the sword of our stone, our rotational axis, the world tree. Okay, cool. So 12ness, it's like really important because if 12 wasn't an important thing, would we really care about a 13th moon in a year? I do. Danny, you are amazing too, and we're so glad that you're here. Thank you. And Diane, those examples just explain so much to my visual brain, right? So that's why I put the time in, because if we do this in the mind alone, it's just, mind. And mind is in some ways everything. Thinks are things. So be careful with your spells, right? But if we bring this into the body mind, so I really love doing this with folks actually feet on the ground outside. And by the way, while I say that, if you want to play side by side under the same stars, come to this OPA retreat and join my track, The Way of the Dragon, where we get to work in really small groups, like 6 to 9 people. And then every night we'll be outside playing with the stars in this amazing dark sky space, Park City, Utah. It won't be that dark because it's a full moon at that time, but it's a full moon coming out of the annular solar eclipse, the tropical Libra solar eclipse on October 2nd coming. Okay, so back to the blue moon trip. Okay, yeah, I just need to stay here. Diana says, is there a significance? Oops. I put the wrong thing on the screens. So let's address it. Would your interpretation be more concrete from a geocentric point of view. Yeah, we live here on Earth. We are engaging with the heavenly happenings from here on Earth. And so astrology should at least start geocentrically. It's always been geocentric. Again, these aren't the sun's constellations, so they wouldn't look that different from the sun. They're the Earth's constellations. All right. This is something I love to teach. Stars are sidereal, meaning star-like, heavenly. Stars are celestial. Constellations are terrestrial. Imagine what the stars of Orion's belt look like from Betelgeuse, which we see as Orion's shoulder. Right? That's not what the Orion belt stars. They don't look like a belt from there at all. All right. Very importantly, constellations are terrestrial, and they're also arbitrary. Like the way that Ophiuchus is drawn these days is not how it was drawn in ancient Greece, for example. And that's true of most of the constellations. All right, what I meant to put on the screen is Diana's bit here. Is there a significance when a transit planet or new moon, etc., can join prenatal syzygy? Absolutely. It was one of the many points that's not necessarily expressed in the moment of the nativity, in your birth moment, that the Hellenistic astrologers would utilize deeply. So the prenatal syzygy, for one of many examples, is a key point that is utilized in the length of life calculation, something I like to avoid. So things like your part of fortune, the sect light, which is the sun by day or the moon by night, the ascendant, the steersman, which is the planet that guides the ascending sign, the rudder of your life. And the prenatal syzygy were all points that were used. And absolutely, the ancient astrologers would track transits to the prenatal syzygy point. And you might find that getting familiar with that point in your chart, and again, if you're here just now, your prenatal syzygy, or some call it the prenatal lunation. If you were born with the moon waxing, it's the new moon before your birth. If you were born with the moon waning, it's the full moon before your birth, the degree where the moon is in either case. That's your prenatal syzygy. I encourage you to track transits, activations, as you just said, like, you know, if there's a new moon on that point, as much as you would to your ascendant, and just see if it speaks. Track progressions to it as well. And I would suggest doing the same for your prenatal eclipse degree. Something, by the way, I love to share. You can book a session with me at geminibrett.com/sessions. Ask about that specifically, and we will get into it. Okay. Emmy, doing more birthday research. Bless you. So the Wikipedia article on Blue Moon was written by the CIA. Oh, sorry. No, that's not what that is. The Wikipedia article on Blue Moon has pretty good references and also mentions more cases of visually blue moons people reported seeing in different parts of the world at different times. So interesting. So it sounds like, and thank you, Emmy, it sounds like, you know, blue moons were kind of rarely seen. And so somehow that term was then applied to these, the 13th full moon in a year, which really isn't that rare, right? So when they say once in a blue moon, what they mean is once about every 3 years. Okay, but it is tricky because, like, let's say you and I belonged to different nomadic tribes, and we met that one beautiful night by the lakeside, in that one place that both of our tribes see each other once a year. And then as the seasons turn, y'all go that way and we go this way, right? So we might be really excited to meet at that full moon time at which both of our tribes find their way back to that lake of our meeting, you know? Well, if it's the second full moon in the same sign, and we told each other we will see each other at that time next year, you know, you might show up at the top of the Seattle Space Needle on the wrong date. Right? So we got to be careful. I mean, of course, lunations and the phases of the moon, like, the oldest calendars that I believe that we are aware of are like moon phases carved into animal bones. And you can see, like, in some of much later actually in time in the record in cave paintings, moon phase calendars. Winner says her prenatal syzygy is on her dad's sun, and her prenatal solar eclipse is on his dad's sun. Whoa. What a trip. Nice. Winner, that's massively magical, almost as magical as you. Thank you for sharing that. That's really cool. All right. Dang 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 ding 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 dang 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 ding dang blue moon. So this might just be a blue moon, and I suggested this again. So again, I'm using the tropical zodiac. Last week I actually showed if we use a sidereal zodiac. Well, it depends on which sidereal zodiac you use. Okay, so one that we looked at was the Lahiri zodiac. So I can do that here. This is more of a star-based 12-sign zodiac, but the 12 constellations of the zodiac are not equal in size. So you can never have a 12 equal sign zodiac, which is sidereal zodiac, like the Lahiri Ayam Namsha is mapped to the constellations. That's part of the kind of 13th sign folk argument. But here we'll see that they won't have a second consecutive full moon in the same sign until November. There is this. So again, when we get a full moon in a really early degree of a sign, you got a good shot of a second consecutive full moon in that same sign. And indeed, that is true in the Lahiri sidereal zodiac in November, because if we utilize that zodiac as, half the astrologers in the world almost are. It's the most popular zodiac in India today, from what I understand. There would be a new moon in Lahiri Virgo in October. This, by the way, is the eclipse that I'm calling Libra. And there's a Virgo new moon followed by an Aries full moon, and then a Libra new moon followed by an Aries full moon. So if we utilize this terminology of the second consecutive full moon in the same sign, this November 15th, Lahiri Ayam Namsha sidereal zodiac Aries full moon would be the blue moon. Now the issue is, and I kind of stumbled into this last week, if we use one of the many other, in Astro Gold astrology software does not offer too many Ayam Namshas or calculations of sidereal zodiac, star-based zodiac, but 12 equal signs star-based zodiac or star configured or calibrated zodiac, like the Fagan Allen, then the blue moon doesn't happen then, because this Virgo new moon, Pisces full moon. So an important thing I would say is, unlike the tropical zodiac, which is completely not arbitrary, once again, it is aligned to Gaia's spine. The constellational zodiac, entirely arbitrary, right? So go to Peru and ask them if they know about Ophiuchus. And the answer is no. That star group did not exist in their tradition, right? They'll have different names for those stars. Ask them if they know about the direction south. And the answer is fuck yes, right? Like the tropical zodiacs is not arbitrary. I'm not saying that makes like sidereal or constellational zodiacs wrong. You do you, right? But they are entirely arbitrary. Stars are celestial, constellations are terrestrial, and who gets to connect the dots? So the constellations most people use today are like defined by the International Astronomical Union, the IAU, who vehemently hates any idea of astrological correspondence. So why should astrologers listen to them? Right? Sidereal calculations, is much debate about if we take a 12 sign equal zodiac and choose a star to align it to, which star? And then you also have to deal with your rate of precession, which is super tricky. So I will say, of these three zodiacal cosmologies, constellational, sidereal, and tropical, the tropical is the only one that is not arbitrary. That doesn't mean that it's the only right one, but it means it's the one that I'm going to play with. Okay, and if we do, then it's July when we will have a second consecutive full moon in the same zodiac sign. So we look again back in time. We had a Gemini, tropical Gemini new moon in June, followed by a Capricorn full moon, and now coming soon to a theater called You, a Cancer new moon, followed by a Capricorn full moon, right? Well, let's just go back in time. And when should a year begin? Let's go like 7 years ago, just kind of randomly. And let's go back to, I don't know, Sun's Aries ingress. Okay, so here's East equinox that year. Okay, I had no plans to go back to 2017, but here we are. So our Aries new moon that year was here at 7.5 degrees. So I said before, you can basically add 15. It's like cheap and it won't get you right there, but you can basically add 15 degrees and find the place of the sun for the next full moon, right? So 7 plus 15 being 22.5. So I'm expecting a Libra full moon somewhere around 22.5 degrees. I'm off by 1. And you know what? Let me actually add another point here and share with you why that is and why I was off by a degree. And it's the point that astrologers have come to call true black moon Lilith. I'm gonna have to bring in an image of the black moon, which is like disembodied, if you will. And let me just show you what Lilith is. Oh my God, there's so many of these. There, this will work. Thanks to my beloved Scorpiana for helping me create this very much not to scale image of the moon's elliptical orbit. Now, truly, the moon and Earth are dancing about one another as we dance about the sun together, but we can use this model of moon about sun every month. Okay, that would be, by the way, a tropical month, moon getting through the signs of the zodiac, which is about 27.33 days long, and the moon does not move at the same pace every day. She moves about 13.33 degrees per day, which is why that's the arc of a nakshatra or other lunar mansion traditions, that degree of space that the moon moves in her average pace from one night to the next. But she is fastest when closest to Earth. That's a point in this elliptical orbit called the lunar perigee, meaning close to Earth, geo, Earth, okay? And then the apogee is far from Earth. Now, if we align our hearts to the point that astrologers have come to call true black moon Lilith, we are facing the place where moon is furthest from Earth, right? So I like to know black moon Lilith as far moon Lilith or slow moon Lilith, okay? Because when moon is close to Earth, moon is moving fastest. When moon is far from Earth, moon is moving slowest. When moon is conjunct true black moon Lilith in the chart, moon is moving slowest. When moon is opposite true black moon Lilith in the chart, moon is moving fastest. And this is going to matter from one lunation to the next. So when we look at this new moon, for example, here, and we were just randomly at March of 2017, right? 7.5 Aries. We're going to see that it's relatively opposite Lilith. Okay, and that means that the moon is far from Earth and small and slow. And you'll see here that the moon is close to Earth. Lilith is far point. Opposite Lilith is close to Earth. So this is moon close to Earth and fast. So her average travel at that time was 14.25 degrees per day. And again, her average pace is 13.33. So what? So the moon is starting the lunation fast. Okay, let's look at where the full moon is. Close to Lilith, right? So this is a slow full moon. And the moon's pace here at 12 degrees and 12.33 degrees per day. Okay. And that means that because she starts the lunation fast, there's going to be less amount of time between the new moon on March 27th, 2017 and the full moon on April 10th, 2017, than there is between that full moon and the next new moon, right? And so I wanted to share this now. It's going to come in different ways as we continue our play, because this also just to justify why I was off by a degree. Because again, first of all, the lunation's 29.5 days. So even if the sun moved 1 degree per day exactly, and the moon did her thing 13.33 degrees per day exactly, it wouldn't be 15 degrees. It would be more like 14.75. Okay, but the math in the zodiac's hard enough already. Let's just add 15. And so that takes us to 22.5. But we see the full moon is at 21.5. So why? Because she was traveling fast at the beginning of the jam. And so she gets from new to full more quickly, less days, right? So she moved 14. The sun moved 14 degrees between new and full. And now we're going to see, like if we add 15 here, 21 and a half plus 15 is what, 46 and a half, which means 16 and a half. No, which means, sorry, it's 36 and a half. 21 and a half plus 15 is 36 and a half, which means 6 and a half of the next sign. And now we're back to that place, okay? But look, this one, even more so, is opposite Lilith. So it's a really fast moon to begin. Add 15, and we're going to get to 21 and a half, but 20 and a half, okay? Let's just continue this jam, and we're going to go throughout the year. And let's get to places where the new moon, and I'm hoping you're also tracking kind of new and full moon signs as we're doing this play. Let's go here in the cycle at the galactic center, by the way, at the foot of Ophiuchus. Ophiuchus, I'm told, is a better pronunciation, where now a new moon starts with the moon far from Earth. So it's a slow moon. Okay, let's add 15 to that, and we're going to get to 11 and a half. So we get the full moon actually at 11 and a half. And you know what the greatest cycle shifts would be? When the new moons are square to Lilith. We needed to introduce ellipses to see why blue moons are most likely to happen in certain signs or at certain times of the year. Okay, so let's just continue. I want to actually get to the Aries new moon in 2018. Well, yeah, let's go to the Aries new moon actually in 2019. Oh, I'm in the wrong side of the world. Here we go. Okay, so I'm trying to prove a point, folks. Let me actually go back a year. So for those of you who have studied eclipse cycles with me in the Sero series, you will be familiar with this weird 11ness, that consecutive eclipses of a Sero series are separated by 18 years, 11 days, and 8 hours. And the 11 days bit moves the dragons of an eclipse family about 11 degrees forward in the zodiac every 8 years. Well, that same 11 is expressed through the retrograde, the retrogradation, the precession of a new moon degree from 1 year to the next. And the reason why is this: 12 lunations of about 29 and a half days is about 11 days short of the solar year. Okay, so 12 times 29.5 is 354, and the year is about 365 days long, right? So we're 11 days shy. And so what happens is, yeah, I'm just going to go the next year from the Aries new moon that's about to be on your screen, which is a high degree Aries new moon in 2018. Okay. And you know what? Let's actually new moon our way around. So let's do the 12 new moons. If we started at equinox time, like if we chose to begin a year, then again, kind of arbitrary, but at least it's not just some calendar date at some time that doesn't happen for everywhere in the world at the same moment. Like this is a global moment that happened to be 9:15:28 on the clock Pacific time. But it's a global moment when sun gets to the east point of Earth, which is what the tropical Pisces Aries cusp is. All right. And you can see here, it's like with a really young moon, right? The moon's 38 degrees from the sun. So our next new moon is going to be a ways later, almost a month later. And it is here, 26 Aries. Okay. Let's do 12 moons from there. So we'll go 26 Aries, 24 Taurus, 22 Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, and now in Aries. Now look, it's at 15. So this is 2019. I'm going to go back a year and show you that Aries new moon that year was at 26. Okay, subtract 11. The next year we get Aries new moon at 15. Subtract 11. The next year in 2020, what a lovely year that we're looking back at. The next year in 2020, we're going to get the Aries new moon at 4. Subtract 11. So this new moon, if you will, that was in Aries, the following year is now in Pisces. It's like they retrograde around the zodiac. Okay, so that's an important piece. And by the way, we can do that with full moons too. Let's only look at full moons for a bit. So here we have a full moon near the equinox, right? On a Sunday. So the question is, did they Easter or not? Because the way that Easter is now done is the first Sunday after full moon, after equinox. Easter, interesting. Anyway, Tropical Zodiac, directional, interesting. Anyway, so let's just do full moons. So here are the full moons at 8 Libra and Scorpio full moon, Sag, Capricorn, earlier degrees, you see? Aquarius. Remember I said earlier, when you get a full moon in early degrees, you have a chance for second consecutive full moon in the same sign. This definition we're using for blue moon, okay? Is that going to happen here? And the answer is no. Yes. Okay, so here we have a blue moon in 2021. This would have been the most recent blue moon before the one coming up in July of 2024, because again, they happen about every 3 years. Okay, so an Aquarius full moon in July of 21, and then an Aquarius full moon in August of 21. Okay. So let's continue from there. Now we're in these late degrees, okay? And what I want to do, let's actually rewind. And you're going to see, like, at this time of the year, look at this, let's speak degrees. I'm not going to use minutes, okay? I might round, but we have a full moon at 9 Leo in January 21, followed by a full moon at 9 Virgo, 8 Libra, 7 Scorpio, 5.5 Sag. You see how it's losing degrees? That's a 29.5 month thing, but it also has to do where Lilith is and something else that we're going to get to. So 5.5 Sag, 3.5 Capricorn, right? They're like losing degrees. 1.5 Aquarius. And now instead of 1.5 Pisces, it's back and it's in Aquarius. So now we're in this kind of 29. So now let's keep doing this. So 29.5 Aquarius, 28 Pisces, 27.5 Aries, 27 Taurus, 27 Gemini, 28 Cancer. Are you seeing how there's one time of the year, and we're coming to it now, where consecutive full moons are going to lose degrees, I'll say, or be in earlier degrees of their respective signs? So 2740, 2645, 2517, all the way down to 23.5, 21.5. Do you see that? And then on the other side of the year, dig how they just stay near the same degrees. So it's about 30 degrees away. 16.5, 16, 16, 16.5, 16.5, 16.5, 16, 15, 13, 11. You see how that's working? So why the heck is it going down like that? Now, usually, and it'd be a lot easier actually to show this with new moons, because I want to show you with where the sun is at, okay? So let's just rewind here. We're in 2022, and we have a new moon around solstice time at 1.5 Capricorn, 1.5 Aquarius, 1.5 Pisces, 1 Aries, 29 Aries. So that would be like a black moon, if you will, a second consecutive new moon in the same tropical zodiac sign. Now we're at 29, 50, 28.5, 27, 25. So it's at this time of the year, right? Like northern hemisphere summertime, or let's just say northstice time, where we have like the greatest subtraction in degrees from one new moon to the next. And now check it out here and see, you're just going to see it stay at the same degree. 21, 21, 21, 21, 21, number 9, 20, 19, 18, 16, 14. That was, by the way, this is the one coming up. So what the heck is going on there? Okay, well, that's like a different kind of Lilith. It has nothing to do with the moon. This has to do with the Earth and the sun. No orbits are circular. They are elliptical. I'm trying. I'll work on it. They're elliptical, right? And in the Earth-Sun ellipse, we are closest to the sun in January and furthest away in July. Oh, sorry. We are closest to the sun in Capricorn and furthest from the sun when the sun is in Cancer. Okay. So the Earth is moving faster in January and slowest in July. And the way that we experience that here on Earth is the sun moving slowest through Earth's zodiac in January. No, sorry, fastest through Earth's zodiac in January, slowest through Earth's zodiac in July. Let me show that to you thanks to the convenience of AstroGold astrology software. And we'll just look at, let me go back a bunch of Moonths. So here we are with the sun in Capricorn. We're pretty close to January 1st-ish is when the Earth is closest to the sun, and therefore the Earth is moving fastest in our orbit, and therefore sun is moving fastest day by day through Earth's zodiac. We teach that the sun moves about 1 degree per day, 360 degrees for 365 days and change. And yeah, that's a good average, but dig that like at this time, and you can see right here, the sun's speed is 1 degree in 1 minute per day. Okay, look at the next month or next month. 1 degree, 46 seconds, less than 1 degree, down to 59 minutes per day, 58 minutes per day, 57 and a half. So we're getting here into July. This is when the sun moves most slowly. It's right around July 4th in our current time. So it's like happening now, right? And look at now, see the sun is only moving 57 arc minutes per day, a few minutes less than 1 degree per day, right? So it sticks with it's like an average. The Earth's orbit of the sun is more circular than most planets. Venus, goddess of harmony, like almost a perfect circle. Neptune, very circular as well. The eccentric Mercury, extremely eccentric orbit, extremely elliptical orbit. The chaotic Mars, extremely elliptical orbit. Pluto, forget about it. Right? Like ellipses, y'all. And so because the distance of Earth to sun changes throughout the course of the year, closest in January, so fastest in January, furthest in July, so slowest in July, it is more likely to have these blue moons, definition, second consecutive full moon in the same zodiac sign in some signs than it is in others, at 1/2 of the year than it is at the other half of the year. And I'm speaking solstice to solstice in that respect. All right, so I keep wanting to get to what does it mean, but I just want to show you the pattern and then we'll unpack that a little bit. So I want to rewind in this year. Let's go back to Sun's Capricorn ingress. Okay, so December solstice. Better said solstice. Winter solstice for the northern hemisphere is summer solstice for the southern hemisphere. But what is global about this? It is the sun at its southern bounds, okay? So more tropical zodiac reality here. Sun ingresses tropical Capricorn, and it's on the Tropic of Capricorn, which is closest to southern hemisphere locations, at least temperate, that means south of there, and furthest from northern hemisphere locations. So the sun is far from the north, winter, close to the south, summer, right? But what it is globally is it is at its southern bounds. That is 0 Capricorn in the tropical zodiac, not in the constellational zodiac, not in some Ophiuchian structure. People will say this is the sun in Ophiuchus. No, it's at the Tropic of Capricorn, hence tropical Capricorn. Okay. Anyway, you can see that we have a waxing trine here with the moon, right? So this is about 10 days after new moon. Oh, wrong button. Fine, let's start here. we're now in 2022, where there was a new moon at solstice time, very close, right? And I want to look at new and full. Okay. Actually, let's just do full moons. So we have a Cancer full moon at like 16 degrees. Leo at like 17. Virgo, 17. Libra at 16. Scorpio at 15. Sagittarius at 13. Right? So more difference, more shift for full moons and for new moons when the sun is north. When the sun is at like northern hemisphere summer solstice, right? Southern hemisphere winter solstice. Better just to say north-this. 0 Cancer is the north pole of Earth. It's the northern bounds of the sun, right? So you see the sun here up at the Tropic of Cancer. It's the northern bounds of the zodiac, right? And that again is when Earth is far from sun. So the sun is moving slower day by day through our zodiac. So the moon is going to be able to lap the sun more frequently. And that means that the sun is going to regress or precess or quote unquote retrograde. The sun never retrogrades, but the new moons or the full moon degrees are going to lose degrees from one sign to the next, right? So let's just see. We have a full moon here at 11. Where's that full moon going to be next year? And it's going to be very close to the solstice point, right? Because basically we can subtract 11 degrees, right? Now that's not exact because of the ellipse. Okay, so here we have full moon at 11 Capricorn, then 9 Aquarius, 7.5 Pisces, 6 Aries, like, you know, losing degrees, right? 5 Taurus, 5 Gemini, 5 Cancer, 5 Leo, staying in the same space. I mean, even here, it kind of gains a change. And that, again, this is because now Earth is close to the sun. So the sun is moving fastest through our zodiac. So it takes more time for moon to lap the sun. 5 Capricorn, or sorry, we're tracking full moons. 5 Cancer, 5 Leo, 5 Virgo, 5 Libra, 4 Scorpio, 3 Sagittarius, and here we are now. We expected around the 1st degree because we subtract 11 from where it was the year before at 11 plus, but it only lasts like 10 degrees, and that has to do with the ellipse, okay? Either way, we were pretty close to a solstice full moon, right? And so here we had Gemini new moon followed by Capricorn full moon around solstice time, and now we will have Cancer new moon followed by Capricorn full moon. That blue moon, if we use this criterion of the second consecutive full moon in the same zodiac sign. You know, next week, I don't know what I'm talking about, StarryTelling Hour, but it's got to not be technical because this one is. And how can we get less? Okay, well, let's just look at new moon and full moon right now. So I wanted to show you that there is something for us to contemplate around if we use this criterion of blue moon equals second consecutive full moon in the same tropical zodiac sign. There's something interesting about they are way more likely to happen in June and July. Let's say May, June, and July than other signs. And actually, you know what? We're going to track that. Let's keep going. Full moons. So here we kind of, we're like resetting 29 Capricorn, 27 Aquarius, 26 Pisces, 24.5 Aries, 24 Taurus, 24 Gemini, 24 Cancer, 24 Leo, 24 Virgo, 23 1/3 Libra, 22 Scorpio, 21 Sag, 19 Capricorn. Remember we had 29 Capricorn? Almost 30 Capricorn, subtract 11. 19. Right? Where's it going to be next year? And it's going to be this minus 11. It's going to be like 8. All right, let's keep going. So 19 Capricorn, 17 Aquarius, 15 Pisces, 14 Aries, 13 Taurus, 13 Gemini, 13 Cancer, 13 Leo, 13 Virgo. You're catching the pattern? 12 Libra, 11 Scorpio, 10 Sag. There's our 8 Capricorn, right? So where's this full moon alignment going to be next year? And the answer is back in Sagittarius, right? So they precess around. And by the way, there's like 33 of these in 32 years. And there's something, I don't know, kind of Freemasonic feeling in those numbers. So when's our next blue moon? We get Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo. Remember we talked about how if it's in an early degree of the sign, you're likely to have a blue moon, a second consecutive full moon in the same zodiac sign. Not over here. And why? Because the sun is moving fast. So it takes more time for the moon to do a lap. 2 Virgo, 1.5 Libra. Look at that. We're ready for a blue moon, right? The first degree of the sign. Yes. Okay, and so here we have May, right? This would have been a Aries new moon, followed not by a Libra full moon, which might feel a little bit more right. Instead, it's decided to like specialize in Mars, right? It goes Aries, Scorpio, Aries new moon, Scorpio full moon, Aries seed, and Scorpio flowers, and then Taurus new moon. And even though beyond 15 degrees, right? Reminding us that it's not 15 days from new moon to full moon, especially if we start with the moon moving quickly on the opposite side to Lilith. So it won't be the same in Taurus every year, even at these degrees. It depends where Lilith is. So now we have Taurus new moon, Scorpio full moon, right? Blue moon in May of 2027. Let's just keep going. So Scorpio full moon, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, September. So here's our next blue moon after 2027, 2029. Again, they're going to happen about every 3 years, like 2024 to 2027. But not every 3 years. There will be 7 of these over the course of 19 years. That's the Metonic cycle, okay? So 27 to 2029. Now, so we had one in Capricorn, then Scorpio, then Pisces. That seems weird. Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn. No. Aquarius, here we go. Aquarius. So we had a blue moon in Pisces, now a blue moon in Aquarius. In 2032. Let's keep going. Pisces, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Sagittarius. Okay, so when Pisces, Aquarius, Sagittarius, like wouldn't it be nice if it just kind of Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, Sagittarius, Scorpio, Pisces, right? Just know that we're not going to have them. I'm talking tropical zodiac, like in Libra and Virgo and Leo and Cancer, right? And that, again, is because of the ellipse. And, I could have just printed out a chart of all the full moons over time. We could have just, looked at all of them. But there's something about watching time go by. I mean, when I do this on my own, I don't go from one full moon to the next. I let the thing play and I watch the moon wax and get full and wane. And I want to see the whole shape moving. And I want to leave Lilith in there too, so I can understand more about the ellipses. You start to be able to see these things. You get weird, you know. It started weird anyway. Okay. So, and this is maybe where we should have begun. So like Danny, asked, for example, if I wanted to know the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s from a group up perspective, what should I look at? Or ground up, right? So if we're talking about blue moons specifically, well, let's just ask about the energy. Like most astrologers don't care about the astronomy of the thing. But when you don't, you fall into some pretty weird domains like, oh, a blue moon is the third full moon in a month that has 4, and something about a 13th sign. You know, things get weird. So I really love teaching earth astrology. I love teaching grounded astronomical side, the measurable side of the heavenly happenings, and then we get into the immeasurable, the qualities, the correspondences. And I think when we have a Gemini new moon, it just feels kind of natural for that new moon seed in Gemini to flower or fruit across the way in a Sagittarius space. So wouldn't it make more sense, quote unquote, if it was a Gemini new moon, Sagittarius full moon? Doesn't it feel in a way more right this year when the Cancer new moon is followed not by an Aquarius new moon or full moon as it was a year ago? So last year we had this Cancer new moon followed not by a Capricorn full moon across the way, but rather by an Aquarius full moon. And, you know, we've been doing that. We've been going, for example, Leo new moon, followed not by Aquarius full moon, but by a Pisces full moon. Virgo new moon, followed not by a Pisces full moon, but by an Aries full moon. Libra, not by Aries, but by Taurus. A lot of Venus. Scorpio, not by Taurus, but by Gemini. Sagittarius, followed not by a Gemini full moon, but rather by Cancer. Capricorn, Leo. Aquarius, Virgo. Pisces, Libra. Aries, Scorpio. Taurus, Sagittarius. Gemini, Capricorn. Cancer, Capricorn. Leo, Aquarius. Virgo, Pisces. Libra, Aries. Scorpio, Taurus. Sagittarius, Gemini. Capricorn, Cancer. Aquarius, Leo. Pisces, Virgo. Aries, Libra. Taurus, Scorpio. Gemini, Sagittarius. Cancer, Capricorn. Leo, Aquarius, Virgo, Pisces, Virgo. Black moon. Virgo, Aries. Libra, Taurus. Do you see how that is? So you have two options for where the full moon can be in the zodiac. If a new moon is in Cancer, the full moon will either be in Capricorn or in Aquarius. If a new moon's in Leo, the full moon will either be in Aquarius or in Pisces. It will either be in the opposite sign or the sign following the opposite sign. And something feels more natural about the full moon, the opposition of moon and sun from Earth's point of view, and the sign opposite the place where moon met the sun for new moon. It just feels a little bit more natural and obvious or something. I mean, even traditionally quincunx signs, which means 5/12ths, or in this case, 7/12ths. It's 5/12ths in the opposite direction because creation creates in 12s, and there's something very interesting about 5 and 7. But anyway, it feels kind of weird to have the full moon in the quincunx sign. Traditionally, quincunxes are blind spots. Like traditionally, let's talk about the Gemini new moon followed by a Capricorn full moon. Traditionally, those signs can't even see one another, though they are contra antischia. And for those of you in constellations who joined my class last month on antischia and parallels, that will land for you, right? Now, importantly, whether you have a Gemini new moon followed not by a Sagittarius full moon, but a Capricorn full moon, or you have a Cancer new moon followed by a Capricorn full moon, that feels so natural. You never have a full moon opposite the degree where the new moon was planted. In fact, let's dig in this time now of 2 consecutive Capricorn full moons that we had a Gemini new moon at 16 degrees Gemini, followed by a Capricorn full moon, not at 1. Okay, well, what's the distance between those 2 points? And again, depending on what Lilith's doing and how far the Earth is from the sun, this won't be exact from one to the next. But think about it. We're generally speaking adding 15, right? That's the simple math. So 16 plus 15 is 31, which means 1. Okay? And let's do it for this coming, maybe more natural feeling. Cancer new moon followed by a Capricorn full moon. Okay, well, we're going from 14 to 29. We're adding 15. So you never have like a new moon and then the full moon exactly opposite, because the Earth does not stop orbiting, right? In between new moon and full moon, the Earth has moved about 15 degrees about the sun. And therefore, in our point of view, sun has moved about 15 degrees in Earth's zodiac, 15 degrees, 15 days. It's 1415. So new moon, full moon, 180 opposition plus 15, 195. Well, that's going to bring us, my friend, to the 24th harmonic. And so let me bring up some images on your screen. And we'll use a very Greek word that is utilized in Indian astrology, which is called the Horas. Before I go there, these are some images that I created for a harmonic class. I'll be teaching, by the way, a deep dive harmonic course at some point in time. Let's talk about music. Let's talk about octaves. So like this C key on the piano has a hammer that strikes strings that are twice as long as this C key's hammer does. And those strings are twice as long as this one. Those strings are twice as long as this one. And those strings are twice as long as this, right? And so the wave forms, like this is the lowest note. I can't sing octaves. Some of you can, right? How many octave range do you have? We call them octaves because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 oct, and what we call the diatonic scale. And we don't need to go there, but very importantly, octave, it's a doubling experience or a halving experience. Half the wavelength is twice the frequency. And we can just half the half the half the half, or double the double the double, all the way up and down. Okay, now we can think of the zodiac as a string. Oops, didn't know that was going to play automatically. Every year, the sun moves to the most northern point, and then it comes back. That just happened, right? Cancer, Leo, Virgo, northern signs that then cross the equator at equinox time. And then we go into the southern signs, the signs that are south of the equator, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, taking us to the most southern point, Capricorn, in the tropical zodiac. Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, bringing us back to the equator. There are northern signs, there are southern signs, right? And just look at the sine wave. This is a sine wave of the solar declination over the course of the year. So it's a vibe. It's a wave. It's a string. Okay, if you play a guitar string and you then pinch it at the half point, you made the octave. Somewhere over the rainbow, like chestnuts. I was just listening to Black Alicious. It's such a great song. Dun 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 dun, like the octave, right? And so you just take the string and you cut it in half. Now, if the zodiac is a string, where does it begin and where does it end? Good question. We might want to begin it with, I don't know, the poles. But why not the places where the ecliptic, the plane of the year, intersects the equator, the plane of the day? Those are the equinox points. Those are the cardinal cusps. Not in some constellational construct, not in some sidereal zodiac. You have to do math to find them. They're the cusp of the cardinal signs in the tropical zodiac on the 360-degree calendar. So, oops, wrong place. Where we want to go. Where are we going? Where are we going? Hi, Daniel. I'm currently editing a video course that I recorded with my first teacher, Daniel Jamario, for his Turning of the Ages Mystery School. Sorry, I just had to find something that was hiding, and we're back. Turning of the Ages Mystery School. Check them out and check out course 4 on cosmology and the turning of the ages and navigating the night sky. That's going to be released with the Cancer new moon this Friday. At least the first 5 chapters will be. And then over the course of the next 2 months, they will slowly drip out. Okay. Creation creates in 12s. What if we cut the thing in half? So these are what in Indian astrology are called the Horas. And interestingly, that is a Greek word, which means the hours, like 24 hours in a day. And so what you can see here is 15-degree divisions, okay? Now, there's a lot of different ways that people have played with this over time. One is to suggest that the first 15 degrees of the, I'm going to say solar signs, like fire and air signs, begin with the sun's energy, and the last 15 degrees of those air and fire, more diurnal or solar signs, are the moon's half. The opposite is true for the nocturnal, the more lunar signs, the earth and the water signs. So Taurus will begin with 15 degrees that is lunar-ish and end with 15 degrees that are solar. So you go sun, sun, moon, moon, sun, sun, moon, moon. Do you see how that works? Now, it's a really interesting place to play. In Indian astrology, they'll use this for essential dignity. So, for example, the sun is said to be exalted in Aries, and it's even more exalted if it's within the first 15 degrees of Aries, because that's the solar hora, or the solar half of the sign of Aries, all right? You know, most of us are used to looking at this thing like this. As I was just saying before, there's diurnal signs, there's nocturnal signs. But how fun to play with the idea that the solar signs have lunar halves and the lunar signs have solar halves. You still get 30 degrees of sun followed by 30 degrees of moon. You see how that is? Now, others have played with, well, if it's the sun and the moon, let's just call them Leo and Cancer. Others have said, no, I want all of the zodiac signs. So why don't we call Aries in the opposite sign, Aries, Libra, and Taurus in the opposite sign, Taurus and Scorpio, as we would call Scorpio and Taurus. Well, but that breaks up the whole diurnal nocturnal thing, right? Because Aries and Libra, fire and air, both diurnal, Taurus and Scorpio, earth and water, both nocturnal, you see? So then this system was created where you're going through the zodiacal order, but there's a switcheroo in the nocturnal signs. But they are very dreamy and don't have to play by the rules of day, by the way. So you get for Aries, Taurus, diurnal, nocturnal. And then for Taurus, Cancer, Gemini. So we're going through the zodiacal order, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio. But there's a switch in the nocturnal signs, you see? And now we get 2 full zodiacs. As by the way, we did here as well. Okay. But we don't get 2 full zodiacs in zodiacal order. So it's not what we call a proper harmonic. This is which is Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. And you have 2 full zodiacs in zodiacal order within the one zodiac. That is a second harmonic division. So I might as well just elemental color code these things. This is the 2 wave within the 1 wave. And so when we take a birth chart, the chart of Lilith moon that's about to show on your screen, we can create a second harmonic chart, which basically creates 2 zodiacs within the zodiac, splits the chart in 2, and then superimposes the 2 halves and turns it into the 1 wheel. So this is not a harmonic class. I want to just be here. Let's be here in the Horas, and we'll play in this way with the idea that solar signs go solar lunar and lunar signs go lunar solar. Okay. So consider this recent lunation that had a Gemini new moon in 16 degrees. Okay, so it was in the second half of Gemini, so that's the nocturnal half. Okay, followed by a Capricorn full moon in the first degree, 1 degree plus of Capricorn, so the second degree of Capricorn, right? So it was in the nocturnal part, or the nocturnal hora, or the nocturnal energy in the 24th harmonic, at least in this division expression, nocturnal part of Gemini, followed by the nocturnal part of Capricorn. Okay, now if we rewind the clock, we would have found a Taurus new moon in the solar side of Taurus, followed by a Taurus new moon in the solar sign of Taurus, followed by a Sagittarius full moon in the solar part of Sagittarius. So we went like solar, then Gemini lunar, Capricorn lunar, and now Cancer new moon, 14 degrees and change. So in the lunar part of Cancer, followed by a Capricorn full moon in the last degree of the sign. So the solar side of Capricorn, do you see? So moon, sun. And so if you play with lunations over time, and maybe if you can kind of just keep that code in your vision space, let's go back some new moons. Okay, so like here's a Capricorn new moon, but in the second half, so that's the solar part of the sign. Okay, followed by Leo full moon in the solar part of the sign, the first part of a diurnal sign. So solar, lunar, solar, lunar, second half of Aries, lunar, solar, lunar, solar. So with the blue moon, not only are you shifting to something that might feel more natural, instead of a Gemini new moon in the Capricorn quincunx plate, a Cancer new moon in the Capricorn opposition plate. And full moons are opposite, and that just feels more right. It's not only that, but at the blue moon shift, and not for the whole trip, you, instead of having like lunations that in the Horas are in like a solar division of new moon, followed by a solar division of full moon, and then lunar, solar, lunar, solar. So you go lunar, solar, lunar, solar for new moon and full moon respectively after the blue moon resynchronization or reset. In other words, it's a big deal. And instead of having these months that are more solar and these months followed lunar, and we're shifting from one month to the next, solar, lunar, which it feels that way if you're just tracking new moons, a Gemini new moon, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, right? So we have that precedent. But as you tune into kind of deeper harmonies, you start feeling this other essence, this other expression, this other vibration. And so these blue moon times not only kind of like set the record straight in that the full moon sign is opposite the new moon sign, but they also kind of reset the energetic code within the divisions known as the Horas. So I'm going to say one more thing about the 24th harmonic. It is in that it is the second division of 12. It's very much about two-ness, which is relationship. Which, the principal relationship that we observe in the celestial expressions is new moon and full moon. So as we move through these kind of journeys, which last 3 years-ish, there's something very lovely about the blue moon opportunity to have kind of an energetic reset. It's kind of like the start of a 3-ish year dance of Earth, Moon, and Sun. So happy new beginnings to you. I want to say one more thing about the 24th harmonic. It's 4 and 6. What does that mean? 4, manifestation, bringing the dream into reality. And 6, community. So thank you so much for spending time with me. Thank you so much for the present of your presence, especially today when we get all, and last week too, as we get all kind of technical and talk about calendar kung fu and the weird polyrhythms of silver and gold. It's a tricky thing to track, And you're just listening to me like Aries, Taurus, Gemini, can't like for an hour. And yet, I want to really appreciate and give gratitude for comments like this at the end here. If you like this video, please like this video. If you like this video, you're like me, you star nerd. So please share it around with other folks, other members of our crew, other stars of our constellation. And speaking of, the School of Astrology does indeed, and it's still new and wonderful, have a membership community called Constellations, and we invite you to align your star with ours. You can do so by typing in geminibrett.com/constellations in your magic internet machine. You can still join for the maiden voyage price of only $16 a month. Every month I teach astrology. Every month Amala Hall teaches astro-herbalism. Every month Alyssa Luna offers an astro embodiment practice tuned to the sign of the sun. Every month Phelan Shiva is leading an astro tarot group. Soon we are going to have reading exchange circles with like parameters and rules so it doesn't get too dicey there in places that you can report to if things are a little bit too tough or go out of line. So it'll be a great place not only to practice reading charts and practice receiving readings, but also to practice boundaries. It's really important, right? As we're opening to more energy, and it's very important as we're coming into this new moon of Cancer tenderness. So that's actually launching in this School of Astrology's Constellations membership space very soon. You can sign up for $16 a month. You can quit anytime. Star nerd and open hearts, and we get into really wonderful places there in community discussions. We want to hear your voice. We want to hear your wisdom. And so speaking of, I will be teaching a class on Venus cycles, phases, in the chakra moon gates, according to the shamanic astrology mystery school tradition. This Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. You can join for $16 to receive the class. It will be probably 2.5 hours of astrology transmission for me. There's a lot of beautiful, intricate things to teach in the dance of Venus and sun and earthly skies. And then we'll take a short break and then do some deep dive chart work and some community discussion with folks like Diane, fellow star nerd, and Catamount, a fellow mind tripper, and Emmy, a fellow being of gratitude. Happy birthday, Emmy. And Winter, an amazingly summerish being. Thanks all for spending some time with me. I hope to see you in the constellation space. Until then, or hopefully sometime on Earth, I will see you in space.